Asmir, how did it go so wrong so quickly for Liverpool in this defence?
It's a very, very good question. Again, I don't really have an answer. I don't think it's one thing. I think it's them as a unit. I don't think they're really working well together. I don't know if it's a lack of continuity with the central defenders pairings and the fullbacks. I don't think maybe the switching of the goalkeepers has helped. I think them as a unit, they're not working, because I don't think it's one particular player just making mistakes or one particular thing. Everything in that defensive area is going wrong, and I'm not sure how much time they spend on it, if they're being coached. I think generally in football, defending is going out of the game. The basics of defending, people are not learning maybe in the game as much, and it's just seems to be disappearing. But I think for Liverpool, it's just a combination of things: communication, positioning, just the wanting to desire defending, I think, seems to be lacking for Liverpool.
Does it look like to you that they are being coached as a defensive unit?
I don't think they are. It doesn't look like it. They don't look organised. They don't look like they want to defend. I look at some of their players. The first thing is just how good they can be on the ball and how they can pass and go forward, and the fullbacks, how we can attack and join in. I don't think their first thought is defending. So I think as a unit, they look all over the place, and what the reason for that is, it could be many reasons. Like I said, the lack of continuity between them. I think communication is a big part of the game. Maybe that's not there. So I think as a unit, that they just look all over the place, and I think confidence once again is low. People making bad decisions. So it seems to be a little bit of a mess over there.
It sounds like it. Is that the key, as Asmir says? Is it that they are too focused, perhaps, on attacking?
I think it's a factor, but you know, I look at it and I think the right-back position's been exposed because Klein, who I think is a good player, has been out for the majority of the season. The left-back that's come in, Moreno, I know there's been so much talk about and debate about him, but when you watch him play, he's very much that. He's all about the ball, and out of possession is a bit of a liability at times. You then look at the centre-half pairing that isn't as solid as what you would hope for, and you have a goalkeeper who probably isn't the most reassuring goalkeeper that you'd want to play in front of. So when you mix all that together, plus a very attacking style that likes to press the ball high up the pitch, you know, their out of possession work in the attacking third, I think, is excellent and it's great to watch. But what it does, it leaves you with big spaces at the back. So the mobility, the organisation, that defensive instinct for your fullback to tuck in and cover you if you want to go tight or drop. All these things, for me, just aren't happening for Liverpool, and it just leaves them horribly exposed every time they play.
Do you think he's drawn a line in the sand with that reaction that we saw from him yesterday?
I think that was a big change in Klopp, actually. I mean, I've been to previous press conferences where he's almost laughed at journalists for asking him about defending, as if it's a stupid question, as if, you know, we don't really understand what's going on. And he's always backed players. He's definitely a manager that tries to project publicly as much belief as he can. So for him to say that, you know, I could have done better. I mean, he wasn't a German international. He was a, you know, Mainz kind of reserve defender half of his career. So he's not a brilliant defender in his career, and for him to say he could do better is pretty damning. I think this has probably got to be a moment for Klopp where he fixes what other people can see hasn't been getting fixed, and it has been puzzling asking him about this, and him rejecting the idea that there's anything wrong.
I almost feel like rejecting it, it's just built up, hasn't it? And then, you know, as a player watching that and listening to that, you would just feel like, I mean, it's embarrassing, isn't it, that your manager says that? But for me, it's because he has denied time and time again. I remember the Newcastle game, which I watched the full game, and the goal that they conceded was such a straight ball through the middle, both defenders just square and not reacting. And he kind of denied again after the game that it wasn't, you know, maybe they couldn't see the ball. There was like a bit of an excuse as to why it happened. But there comes a point where you do draw that line, and you know, he's clearly there.
I think the supporters will enjoy that. I think the fans have been crying out for him to recognise, because they still, you know, he's still huge popularity, but Liverpool fans have wondered why he couldn't see what they could see. So I think that'll have gone down well in the stands, if not the dressing room.
So how easy is it to fix, Asmir? You've worked for some managers like Mourinho, like Tony Pulis, who know all about organising defences.
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost it's a mindset. Getting those defenders switched on as to what they're doing is, like Matthew said, if you are pressing high, that means as a defender you have to be aware that that press can be beaten at any time. And that means you're defending. So that you as a unit, if it's a 4 at the back, you have to then understand that that ball's going to come, you're going to be exposed. So stay together, stay compact, understand that the ball could come, look left, look right, talk to each other, back your man up, do the basics of defending. I don't think as a team they're quite switched on, and as a unit, they are all over the place. One presses, the other doesn't cover. They are not doing the basics of defending, and I don't think they take the pride it takes to be a defender. I mean, you go to Tottenham, you're going to go to Wembley, you understand, ball possession or not, you will have to defend. Harry Kane, Son, Dele Alli, all of these players, you will have to defend, and sometimes the ball has to go, head the ball, clear your lines, do the basics to stay in that game. And from the first minute, they didn't understand that they could be here in trouble, and they're making defensive mistakes, which obviously makes you chase the game, and it becomes very, very difficult.
How hard would it be to be a goalkeeper in that team right now?
Well, it would be hard as a goalkeeper, of course, if you're a unit in front of you, but you're just as much part of that unit as everyone else. You can communicate, you can dictate about positioning, but doing your job correctly, by helping them in communication skills, everything. I think as a unit, you have to work together. I mean, Matt and I played together before, and it's all about communicating, understanding where you are, where your position is. If they're high, you have to be high. So understanding what it is you want to achieve as a unit and drilling that into your players, and I think that's what Liverpool players need now, is drilling, keeping it simple and doing your job first and foremost.
But he stays on his line, doesn't he, Mignolet? I mean, he's not a keeper that comes out, and that's when you watch them, there seems to be a big gap between him and, I mean, you'll know the technicalities, but I'm not sure if he's right for that system.
He likes to be on his line. I mean, I like to be on my line. We know we're bigger guys, we're maybe not as fast as them, but if your team's high, you have to be high. There's no, the manager says to you, whether you like it or not, you have to be there, and you have to learn to do that job well. And it doesn't matter what you want to do, it's just you have to be part of that team. And I think that's maybe the problem. Maybe he's a little bit too far back, they're too far forward, the spaces are there, and they get exploited.
How hard is it to get the balance right? He might be fearing, Matt, that if he spends too much time, or might have been fearing, spends too much time on working on defending, that he lose something of Liverpool as an attacking side as well. I'm thinking about the balance again from you having worked with Tony Pulis. We talked about Jose Mourinho. People even talk about him as being a negative manager.
Yeah, but that's the art of management, and that's the art of getting your philosophy right, I suppose. And he's very much a high tempo, on the front foot, both in and out of possession, which is what makes him different for me. Because out of possession, he's so excited. His team is exciting to watch for me out of possession, with the way they want to hunt the ball back, the way they react to losing possession. It's great to watch, but there's a trade-off, isn't there? And there comes a point, like we said, and where Jurgen Klopp appears to be at, where he might be having that realisation of, like, if I don't actually start to spend a bit more energy and time in developing this part of the team, then all the hard work that we're doing up the pitch and how we're playing is worthless. That's how detrimental not getting the defensive side of it is. You know, we can always talk about scoring goals, but if you don't get that right, it's worthless.
So in terms of fixing it, do you think it's players or tactics? If you put, for example, the Spurs defenders in that Liverpool team now, would it instantly get better?
I think the Spurs defenders have a better understanding. I do. I look at the fullback situation. They, to me, don't appear to know how to take up defensive positions when they're under threat, especially when it's a counter-attack and you might even be in possession up the pitch or have just lost position.
So individually they have a problem, you think?
I think so. I think so, as well as collective. It comes hand in hand. It definitely comes together.
I mean, recruitment's a big question about Klopp when it comes to defending. I think he's only paid money for 2 defenders, which are Klavan and Robertson, who you wouldn't say are top class or first choices, and he's left the unit otherwise untouched, apart from selling Mamadou Sakho. He said in the summer that name me 5 defenders that are better than the ones I've got. Well, the 5 that play for Spurs are probably better than all of them. Waiting for so long to try and get Virgil van Dijk without having a plan B was an odd thing. If you look at him at Dortmund, he inherited Mats Hummels and a very good goalkeeper in Weidenfeller, and he had a director of football who bought people like Subotic. So I think that is a question mark about him. Can he buy a good defender? Can he prioritise it enough?
But would one defender make a big difference, do you think? If it was a Virgil van Dijk?
Yeah, obviously, if one individual is of world-class stature, then I'm sure he would help. But I think as a group, I think it's the mentality that's more important for Liverpool. When you look at that attacking talent of Coutinho, Salah, Firmino, Wijnaldum, all of these players, I would say to myself, if I get it right at the back, if I'm solid enough, these guys are going to win me matches. One-on-one, their ability, their creativity, their imagination is incredible. So if I can just be solid defensively as a unit, you look at the space as well between Liverpool, the lines, there's just way too much. They're not compact, they're not together. I think if I can get that solid enough, keep enough clean sheets, concede maybe one a game, but if you're 2 down after 15 minutes, it's very difficult with no matter what the attacking talent you have to win any game or get the result.
But where it's hard to turn it around now is that you can just see that they have doubt, don't they? The back four, Lovren, Matip, they have doubt. I really don't think they quite know how to go about performing.
But maybe now he's put 2 sitting midfielders, give him more protection.
Yeah.
Instead of just putting Henderson, maybe you have to put Can there, or just block it up and let the front players win you the game. Maybe he's just got to go to basics and say, I'm going to put 6 defensive-minded players there and let the other 4 win me the game. Because as a unit, if you keep going like this, you're just going to digress and go backwards.